So I'm excited to see how he performs. Should be a really interesting matchup now.
Yeah, we see Jonathan right there. I mean, it's kind of strange to see him down there instead of up here, unless he's just doing an interview of some sort. Hopefully he doesn't think that he's down there to do an interview right now.
He grew out his beard. I like it.
He's there to play, and it's always nervous. Your first tournament, and we decided to put him on stream.
Yeah, of course. If anyone can perform in front of the camera, it's gonna be Jonathan though. So
and I'm excited to see how he performs. He's actually a very solid player. I mean, I've seen him play practice matches. I believe he played our other colleague, Aaron Zhang, at some point, and he was able to defeat Aaron Zhang. So
Aaron Zhang, a top 4 worlds competitor, got defeated by Jonathan a little bit earlier on in the meta. So we'll have to see if he's going to be able to bring that level of power and dedication to the game here on his first official tournament.
Yeah, and he must be so happy to be down there. I believe he came up here on a whim, just randomly decided to stop by the San Jose Regional and decide to play.
Why not?
Yeah.
If you're in the area, you might as well just come up and play the game.
I mean, yeah, right? It's why not?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. So it should be a really interesting matchup. Jonathan's team, we saw it just a little bit, is going to be double Tapu. So that's something that we were seeing a lot, but he is going with the Tapu Bulu and the Tapu Lele. So I think we should expect to see a lot of those Pokemon. So Tapu Bulu, Tapu Lele, Arcanine, Magnezone, which was a good Pokemon that came out of London, and of course the Sand combo of Garchomp and Gigalith up against Andrea Wakeland, who is using the Tapu Bulu, the Mimikyu, Alolan Marowak, and Alolan Raichu, the dual Alolans, the Primarina, and the Toxapex.
Yeah, and I believe it's going to be more of a Trick Room team coming out from Andrea's side, as well as Jonathan. Well, Jonathan doesn't really have a Trick Room setter, right?
No, he does not. But his Pokemon are sort of in that realm of being good in the slow Trick Room mode. So if Andrea decides to bring her Trick Room mode, likely that Jonathan will be ready for that.
Yeah, and Gigalith does bring the Sand now, which is a change that happened in between X and Y and here. Bringing the Sand is going to be good for the Sandvale Garchomp. Which is,
if it's Sandvale.
If it's Sandvale, a lot of players do opt for the rough skin.
Sand, you might as well, right?
Might as well, yeah. Magnezone, of course, a lot of people were looking into it. Not a lot of people actually just used it, but I think Magnezone's a great call. Just
great
in case
for trapping Celesteela.
Trapping other steel types as well with Magnet Pull. Analytic is also a very great ability as well because, if you're going second, Magnezone's not exactly a speed Pokemon. Can hit a bit harder, about a 1.3 times boost, as we do see Mimikyu and Tapu Bulu out for Andrea Wakeland.
Here it is, our first game of Sun and Moon for the North American Regionals. The Psychic terrain going out first on Jonathan's side. Tapu Bulu from Jonathan also going to set its Grassy Surge, and I believe that will, well, I guess we don't really know.
I believe that Jonathan's Tapu Bulu is going to be faster. Because that's going to set the grassy terrain.
Yeah.
And we do see Mimikyu out there with the disguise ability, going to be able to take one hit.
Mimikyu, one of those Pokemon that's really good at getting Trick Room set up.
Yeah, but you have to have something else out there to help support the Trick Room setup. Tapu Bulu can hit pretty hard, but at the same time, Tapu Lele is naturally faster than Tapu Bulu and going to be able to hit that Mimikyu. If it gets hit with 2 attacks, it might not be able to set up Trick Room, as we do see the Psychic go off.
Yeah, Psychic will go off into the Mimikyu, will pop the disguise. Oh, the saddest animation ever.
Oh no, Mimikyu, no!
Its disguise was busted. But we are going to have a Z move coming out immediately from Andrea.
The Mimikyu going straight for a Z move, going to activate that one that it can use just once, as we do see Z Splash.
Z Splash!
3 stages of increase.
Splashing around. That is so intimidating. Rock Slide coming out from Andrea's Tapu Bulu, dealing a little bit of damage onto the Lele and the Bulu. But here, Jonathan also going for his own Z move. It's time. The Bloom Doom coming down from Tapu Bulu.
Going to do a lot of damage because of that Grassy Terrain boost as well.
Most likely on that Mimikyu too. If he does pick up the knockout there, all of that splashing will be for naught. Bloom Doom goes up, and it is going to target the Mimikyu. That's so much damage coming out from Tapu Bulu on the Grassy Terrain. Picks up the KO. Mimikyu, I really wanted to see Z Splash.
I mean, 3 stages of increased attack is a lot of attack for Mimikyu. Mimikyu is actually fairly fast for a Trick Room setter. I believe Jonathan was just scared that Trick Room would go up there, so that's why he doubled into it. So, unfortunately, Andrea's side, the Z move was wasted on that splash. You know, it could have been dangerous, but
If that had
Jonathan was smart
gotten
enough. Yeah, if Jonathan was smart enough to try to pick up the KO right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just unfortunate that the play there was already just to stop Trick Room from going up if you were worried about it. But now we have Alolan Marowak out on the field, which is a good switch in here, has a really good matchup with both of these Pokemon.
Right. Again, the Shadow Bone can hit that Tapu Lele. The Flare Blitz can hit that Tapu Bulu. So both these fairies right now are heavily threatened. You know, Marowak's actually just a straight-up Tapu counter.
Yeah.
Except for Feeny.
Except for Feeny. But Feeny doesn't really do that much damage anyway.
I mean, it'll still hit it with a super effective
Scald
or like a water-type attack of some sort, right? So right now, Jonathan might have to do some switching to be able to get himself into a bit of a better position. Maybe not sacrifice any of his Guardians just yet.
Yeah, I feel like both of these Pokemon are going to be very important to Jonathan's wins in the future, but he just wants to get as much damage as possible. That Psychic deals so much damage! It's a crit! Tapu Bulu with the Rock Slide again on Andrea's side will connect with both the Lele and the Bulu. And Wood Hammer coming out on Jonathan's Bulu onto Marowak. That slot is just getting destroyed on Jonathan's side. Mimikyu and Marowak neither able to do anything. Double targeting onto both of those Pokemon, picking up a clean 2 KOs. Tapu Lele and Tapu Bulus are going to start healing up thanks to that grassy terrain too.
Yeah, and you know, Jonathan's just trying to take care of a lot of the threats right now. Doubling up into that slot, you know, sometimes it can be a bit risky, right? You don't want to hit into Protect, waste your entire turn hitting into Protect, as we do see Primarina switch in.
That was my starter.
Oh, that was?
Yeah, Primarina, it's so graceful, so elegant.
Primarina right now is heavily threatened by this Tapu Bulu. It's going to be taking a huge hammer.
Yeah.
From that Wood Hammer, right? Tapu Bulu hits so hard, such a sky-high attack stat.
Yeah.
And we seen it. It took 2 KOs right off the bat.
And here comes the Psychic out from Tapu Lele again. Probably a Choice Scarf on that. And Tapu Bulu from Jonathan will use the Wood Hammer again. If Bulu had a hammer, he would hammer Primarina right out of this first game. Some damage dealt to Andrea's Tapu Bulu from that Psychic, and Whirlwind coming out onto the Tapu Bulu from Jonathan, going to force that switch out, bring in the Garchomp instead. So being able to get the Tapu Bulu out would be great if that Primarina were able to survive, but unfortunately that knockout basically means Tapu Bulu is against the world. And we've only seen Rock Slide right now, and that's not going to do enough to Garchomp.
And Whirlwind, this is good information for Andrea to know what Jonathan was also bringing.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm a huge
really good
proponent
information
of is just being able to dig for as much information as you can. You know, the game might be over, but the set isn't over just yet, right? Jonathan, of course, was revealed a lot of information as well. You know, that Mimikyu is going to be trying to set up the Splash as well.
Right.
Instead of a Trick Room. So Andrea going to have to go straight back to the drawing board here to try to figure out what she can do to kind of readjust for Jonathan's strategies.
Yep.
One thing that Andrea has to do is probably she has to protect better. She has to be able to, see where the attacks are going to go and try to divert the attack into a Protect, and then try to use that as an opportunity to start doing damage to Jonathan's Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some good instincts that were there. The Alolan Marowak, very good matchup against Jonathan's team, but what we saw was that Jonathan just wasn't afraid of, going for those reads, trying to make sure that those threats were off the field. But in a situation where both of those threats are on the field, very difficult for him to get rid of, for example, both the Mimikyu and the Marowak.
Yeah, and again, going into team preview, we still don't know what exactly Jonathan's 4th Pokemon was, but he did bring a very solid matchup. Tapu Bulu, Garchomp doesn't have a great matchup against Tapu Bulu, right? It's probably the worst matchup he can have.
I mean, it can Poison Jab, but...
Yeah, but at the same time, we saw that the Psychic did do 50% to the Tapu Bulu, so as long as Jonathan can protect his Tapu Bulu, he's not going to have to bring Arcanine. We saw Primarina. That gets destroyed by by Tapu Bulu as well. Andrea has to be able to protect that Mimikyu. Somehow try to get up a Splash. Maybe if Raichu has Fake Out, maybe go for a Fake Out. Use that Disguise ability. Use that Disguise ability as well.
Yeah, I mean, the instincts were right there to use that Disguise to set up with the Splash. It's just going to be what happens after that.
Right, and, Tapu Bulu's there as a good answer. Garchomp is a very common lead. Just send it out, just see what happens with Garchomp. Tapu Bulu would counter that, so, great instinct right here from Andrea, and we'll have to see if the adjustments are made.
All right, well, we are about to head into Game 2. Again, this is a best-of-3 set, so if Jonathan wins this match, the set will be over. He will get a win. Andrea will get a loss. But if Andrea can take it back, she will force a Game 2. And Andrea switching things up, going with the Toxapex and Marowak lead up against Jonathan's Garchomp and Tapu Bulu. And I gotta say, I like this position better than in Game 1.
Yeah, you know, Tapu Bulu set up the grassy terrain, which is kind of unfortunate for Garchomp. The Earthquake's going to be heavily reduced. You know, Toxapex and Marowak are both weak to ground or Earthquake. So it's not going to be doing that much damage. It's going to be doing less. I mean, it's still super effective, but it's going to be doing less damage.
Yeah.
The grassy terrain does help Toxapex. Toxapex is a bulky Pokemon.
Very slow.
Kind of a Pokemon, you know, the strategy.
Yeah.
Set up a Toxic. Let's keep this thing out for as long as we can.
Stay alive.
Yeah, and, you know, again, Marowak does have a very good matchup.
We'll have to watch out for that Bloom Doom.
You have to watch out for that Bloom Doom. Bloom Doom does so much damage, boosted by the grassy terrain. As we do see the Baneful Bunker come out right now.
Andrea trying to fish for an attack into that, get the poison off. Rock Slide into the Protect, so Toxapex will not take it. And Marowak avoids it. So Marowak not going to be taking any damage from that Rock Slide, but the Bloom Doom coming out from Tapu Bulu. The Tapu Bulu, did it target the Marowak, or is it trying to break through the Toxapex?
We'll have to see who it targets. I mean, Toxapex is protecting itself.
All of that energy up into the sky, rains down onto the Toxapex.
Does do some damage, though.
It's going to break through the Protect and deal a little bit of damage, but that is not enough from a Bloom Doom. Obviously, Toxapex not able to connect with as much damage as it wants. Will-O-Wisp will connect, however, onto the Garchomp. So in addition to having the grassy terrain weakening the Garchomp, that Will-O-Wisp cutting its attack is going to be huge as well. And there's Toxapex just recovering off all of that Bloom Doom damage.
Earthquake isn't so much of a threat anymore, and you know, Jonathan did use Rock Slide, didn't want to damage his own Tapu Bulu right there, even though it does resist it and get reduced from the grassy terrain. You know, we did see Toxapex take some damage, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but with that Black Sludge in the grassy terrain, it doesn't really care.
Yeah, and we do see Marowak have the Will-O-Wisp too, which is good option to try to burn this Tapu Bulu right now.
Yeah.
In the past turn, I probably would have gone for a burn on the Tapu Bulu because I saw exactly how much damage it did. But you know, Garchomp burned is not as threatening, right? It's just
I feel good about a Garchomp that's burnt.
Yeah. It's burn damage did get nerfed in between X and Y in here.
But if you're still using it as the attack debuff, then it's still very much worth it there.
I think you honestly use it for the attack debuff.
All right, well, Rock Slide back from the Garchomp will connect this time, but with that burn just dealing pitiful damage onto Marowak and Toxapex. Tapu Bulu will be able to connect with the Wood Hammer this time onto Toxapex. That is going to deal a lot of damage.
Big damage right there.
Oh my gosh. Tapu Bulu just taking all of the damage there onto the Toxapex. Flare Blitz, though, from Marowak onto the Tapu Bulu. That is also a lot of damage. Tapu Bulu will go down here, and Andrea picking up a very important KO there.
Very good trade right there.
Look at all that recoil.
So much HP, so many hit points. Good trade right there. You know, you sacrifice Toxapex in order to take out the
Tapu Bulu.
Andrea last turn did use the Baneful Bunker to kind of bait out that Z move and take less damage, but unfortunately, Wood Hammer does so much damage still.
Yeah, just on its
grassy
own.
terrain. Oh.
Yeah, but this Garchomp out on the field, burnt, basically just sitting around, not doing much of anything. Jonathan will send out his Gigalith, so, you know, does have another option for dealing the damage onto the Alolan Marowak, but Primarina from Andrea is actually a very good matchup here. Of course, the Fairy typing onto the Garchomp, and of course, Water onto Gigalith. So that Sandstream will boost its special defense.
And of course, most Water types, they always carry an Ice move.
An Ice move.
Which is going to hit that Garchomp, but, you know, Garchomp isn't the threat right now, you know? If you're Andrea, you target down this Gigalith.
Yeah.
You know, this Gigalith is slower. You can knock it out before it can even make a move. Doesn't get access to Sturdy anymore because a lot of people opt for the Sandstream to bring up the sand, and you know, it does boost the special defense. You might have to double up into it. It could be risky though, because again, Gigalith could protect. Maybe Jonathan sees right through it, right? Maybe Jonathan sees right through it and just like, all right, I think there's a double coming into the Gigalith. I'm going to protect it and use Garchomp to kind of get some more damage out there. Maybe even go for an Earthquake.
Well, it's going to be the Poison Jab from the Garchomp onto Primarina. No protects. That just doesn't deal enough damage, but Poison pick up a little bit of extra damage. That plus the Sandstorm might start dealing some good damage back. Bone Meringue coming out from the Alolan Marowak deals damage, but doesn't pick up the KO. So Andrea will need to double target. Goes for the Ice Beam instead. Will be able to pick up the KO onto Garchomp most likely. does pick it up, so Garchomp will go down. Gigalith hangs on with just a little bit of health thanks to that Bone Meringue. Marowak avoids again! Marowak put on its dancing shoes and is ready to dodge all of these rock slides. Picks up a little damage onto Primarina, which with the Toxic and the Sandstorm will start chipping it away even through the grassy field.
Yeah, and
the grassy terrain.
Gigalith is so physically bulky. I mean, it took like less than half to that from that Bone Meringue. Of course, Marowak does, or sorry, a little bit more than
less than half for each hit.
Yeah. But, Marowak does have access to that thick club, but of course it did lose that ground typing, so...
not quite as powerful as it once was.
No more same type attack bonus right there, as Jonathan does have to send his last Pokemon now. We'll have to see what it is. It is the Tapu Lele, which is the fastest Pokemon on the field. Yeah,
most likely the fastest Pokemon that either of these Pokemon have. The Psychic Surge will get rid of the grassy terrain, so no more healing onto that Primarina or Marowak. Primarina, of course, is poisoned, but have to wonder if you want to let it get off another attack.
Yeah, you probably want to pick up the knockout. I think it's
Marowak
also threatening because Marowak, right?
Yeah, Marowak might be in KO range from the last time with the Psychic.
Well, now it gets boosted by Psychic terrain. It's no longer It's no longer grassy terrain, so this is going to definitely pick up the KO on the Marowak.
So it's basically which Pokemon Tapu Lele wants to knock out this turn.
Right, and both Pokemon threaten this Gigalith, but you also have to remember that Andrea has one more Pokemon in back. If Jonathan picks incorrectly and Andrea gets a free switch, that could be very dangerous, as we do see the Psychic pick onto the Marowak.
No switches, but the Psychic onto Marowak picks up that KO, so one threat down from Jonathan's side. Primarina going with the Ice Beam again. Ice Beam connects to Gigalith. Going to deal a lot of damage, actually. Rock Slide coming out from Gigalith will connect this time. That should pick up the KO onto Primarina. Just not quite enough damage. Another critical hit there. Probably not necessary.
It was going to, Sandstorm and poison damage
with the poison, yeah. And that Ice Beam dealing so much damage, and Primarina being stuck on that Ice Beam. You have to wonder if Andrea's running a choice item there.
It did do a lot of damage, considering that Gigalith does also get a special defense boost, as we do see Mimikyu come out here.
Ooh, Mimikyu is a very interesting Pokemon choice here. Tapu Lele, if it is Scarf, will have to bust the disguise and then hope that Gigalith can get a KO, and that Mimikyu doesn't KO Tapu Lele back. Of course, with that Ghost typing, very possible.
It's still close. Andrea definitely has options here. Mimikyu with that built-in disguise ability. Pretty much a built-in focus ash that does not get broken by the sand.
Right.
Great ability. We're gonna see exactly how Andrea decides to play out these last few turns. If you knock out the Gigalith, that opens you up to 2 opportunities to get hit by the Tapu Lele Psychic. If you try to pick up the KO on the Tapu Lele, Tapu Lele is gonna most likely already break your disguise, and then Gigalith has free reign to try to pick up the KO here.
Yeah, Mimikyu is so bulky, though. I'm not sure if Gigalith can do anything about it.
We'll have to see.
Well, here comes the Psychic from Tapu Lele, busts the disguise on Mimikyu. Mimikyu, of course, now losing its ability to tank a hit, but takes no damage from the Psychic there. Mimikyu, Andrea's going for the Z Splash. So risky here, just trying to get the 3 stages of attack boost there. Really hoping it can survive some attacks from that Tapu Lele, or from the multiple attacks from Tapu Lele and Gigalith.
Heavy slam.
Heavy slam.
Super effective.
Heavy slam from the Gigalith onto Mimikyu. That is so powerful. I take back everything I just said. Gigalith definitely can take out a Mimikyu. And that's going to be game for Jonathan Indovino. Takes it 2-0. Close game that second match after a dominating win in the first game.
Absolutely. And, Jonathan kind of waiting to reveal what that Gigalith can do till the late game. Kind of held that heavy slam in just until he knew that he needed to show it off. Pokemon's a game of information, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to protect your information as well as gather as much information as possible.
Better have good opponents.
Definitely. Let's talk about these teams.
These are some interesting teams. So Bjorn, has the cat sweater on, also running Persian, Alolan Persian on his team. Tapu Fini, who we were expecting to see later, maybe not so early. Alolan Marowak, Nihiligo, one of the Ultra Beasts that we saw a little bit of in London, but not that much. Hariyama and Trevenant, which is a Pokemon I don't think I have ever seen in competitive.
Yeah, I got to give him the style points, both for that cat sweater and such a unique team. Patrick's team is a little bit more standard, I think. We do see Garchomp and Tapu Koko. Again, potentially Earthquake Discharge, as many players like to run.
It's definitely an option.
Tapu Lele, Celesteela, Arcanine, and Gastrodon, which is, I think, one of the Pokemon that, as we said, really shined in London last week.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Gastrodon feels comfortable with the matchups here. I mean, obviously, you like Gastrodon against, for example, rain teams. I would be surprised if we saw a Gastrodon this time around. has a pretty good matchup against Nihiligo, but other than that,
having that Trevenant on Bjorn's side of the field really threatens Gastrodon. So I don't think we'll see it in Game 1. I think that'd be a very risky play for Patrick. But maybe Game 2 or Game 3 if he has any interesting text to respond to Bjorn's strategy.
Yeah.
Which, as you said, might be Trick Room. I mean, Hariyama is usually one of those Pokemon that makes
it's usually
me think,
a giveaway.
Yeah, like, oh, that person's running Trick Room. But we'll have to see. The game's getting started. These trainers are ready to go, and I'm also really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting matchup here. Again, that is Bjorn Johnson on the right side of your team will be up against Patrick Smith on the left side. Both of these players sending out their first Pokemon here. It will be Tapu Lele and Garchomp for Patrick, and Persian and Trevenant for Bjorn. Well, I mean, get those style points while you can get them.
Yeah, I mean, when you first see this team, it seems like a dead giveaway for something like Fake Out and maybe Trick Room, but with Tapu Lele, the great play by Patrick, stopping any priority moves thanks to that Psychic Terrain. Garchomp has free picking, I think, in terms of which Pokemon it wants to target now.
Yeah, Garchomp definitely does have its pick of the litter here, either Persian or Trevenant. Tapu Lele probably, likes having the field set up, but kind of threatened by both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. Alolan Persian is actually a Dark-type Pokemon now, so certainly gets the type advantage against Tapu Lele. But remember, Tapu Lele is part Fairy-type, so if it has something like Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam, it can certainly deal damage back. We'll have to see if Patrick or if Bjorn plays defensively this turn.
Well, Bjorn is going to play defensively, but no switches here. Persian foul play onto that Garchomp. So Persian using Garchomp's own attack against it. Takes some damage from Rough Skin. Deals about 50% there. Garchomp's Dragon Claw will go into the Protect on Trevenant, while Tapu Lele's Psychic also into the Protect. So Bjorn just getting free damage off there. And that Persian using foul play probably starting to scare Garchomp a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's worth noting it did not deal over 50% damage just by eyeballing it, but that's certainly a very strong attack, and if Patrick has any other strong physical attackers in the back, that Persian is certainly going to be a threat to them. Amazing read, though, protecting his potential Trick Room user in case Patrick decides to double in on it, get that early KO. I believe that Shady Pink, or Jonathan last round was actually talking about that. Wanting to target that Trick Room user to prevent getting that speed control set up to prevent that Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field from really dealing damage before you can. So Patrick basically bought himself a turn, even though we didn't see Trick Room last turn, to deal more damage. We will see that Trevenant lead the field.
Yeah, so Trevenant will retreat for Tapu Fini, which will replace the Psychic Terrain with the Misty Terrain. Persian again getting the foul play off. Looks like Bjorn liked the roll he got there. Is it going to be enough? It's not enough. So not a roll there. So 13 hit points on that Garchomp. Will be able to survive. But the Poison Jab coming out from Garchomp onto Tapu Fini. Super effective damage. And a Psychic from Tapu Lele onto the Tapu Fini on the switch. Is that going to be enough without the terrain? It is not. Even with the Life Orb boost, Tapu Fini still holding on.
And we do see Tapu Fini's item here. It looks like
leftovers.
it is holding leftovers. Great read from Patrick.
Yeah, really smart switch up there.
Yeah, using that Poison Jab instead of the Dragon Claw still ensured that he would deal some damage if that Trevenant stayed in. But because Bjorn switched into the Tapu Fini, he actually punished him for that. Persian did still get another foul play, but because Garchomp is still on the field, I don't think that turn was as critical as Bjorn needed it to be, and the momentum is definitely still in Patrick's favor.
Yeah, unfortunately for Bjorn, we could see the exact damage on our side, but when you're on the other side, that looked like basically about 50%. I don't fully blame him for going for it.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunate. That's a heartbreaker right there.
Yeah, but it's good information for Game 2. He might try again.
Oh, well, here is our first Celesteela of the day, switching out Garchomp, trying to wall off that Persian and Tapu Fini. The foul play will come out from Persian onto Celesteela. Deals good damage there, but, Celesteela doesn't really mind that at all. Moonblast should be able to pick up the KO onto Persian. Super easy KO. Persian will go down after dealing quite a bit of damage back. Tapu Lele again taking that recoil damage, and Calm Mind coming out from Tapu Fini. That's a bold play.
It's a very bold play, and looking at Bjorn's position on the field right now, I don't know if that was really his best option. That's some great information for Patrick going into game 2, knowing that his opponent's Tapu has both Calm Mind and Leftovers. But he really needs to start dealing damage unless he's going to play this game safe. Maybe we already have seen his Trick Room strategy maybe has been stopped. We see the Trevenant come back on the field, so he might try again.
Yeah, you have to imagine that Bjorn has to be setting up Trick Room here, right?
Yeah,
otherwise that Calm Mind means nothing with both a Garchomp and the Celesteela in the back.
Yeah, I think though Bjorn, he's just, unless he has some other tricks up his sleeve to sort of get Trick Room up and maybe change things around, I would almost start be thinking about game 2 if I were him, and how to better ensure that he gets Trick Room up from turn 1 so he doesn't have this damage from Garchomp and Tapu Lele, who are both very powerful Pokemon.
All right, well, we'll have to see if Bjorn is going to be able to make any adjustments in game 2. For now, game 1, this Tapu Fini and Trevenant combo. Tapu Fini, I mean, it was pretty bold to Calm Mind the first time. Might just go for some attacks here, but Tapu Lele showing the taunt on Patrick's Tapu Lele. Trevenant does fall for the taunt, does not have a Mental Herb. Scald, though, coming out from the Tapu Fini onto Tapu Lele does okay damage with that Calm Mind, but if you're getting boosts, you want to deal way more damage than that, especially if this Heavy Slam's going to pick up the KO there. And Trevenant, if Trevenant did actually go for the Trick Room there, unable to do that anymore. And yeah, can't use the Trick Room after the taunt.
Amazing play by Patrick. Worth noting, we did see the special defense boost from Beast Boost, so that's really good knowledge for Bjorn. But Patrick, he knows how to stop Trick Room with this team. He can taunt it, especially now that he knows Trevenant isn't holding something like Mental Herb. And he can also just flat out attack it if he wanted to. It's not really looking good for him right now with 2 Pokemon down on his side versus all 4 of Patrick's Pokemon still out on the field. Alolan Marowak certainly will be able to deal some damage, but I think it's at a distinct speed disadvantage at this point, assuming that Bjorn was going for Trick Room there to sort of give it an advantage going into these final turns of game 1.
Yeah, Bjorn really needed to get that Trick Room up for Marowak to be able to take over this game. Still threatens both the Tapu Lele and the Celesteela, but you know, it's going to have to go through 4 Pokemon. The Trevenant, most likely not a huge offensive threat here. Bjorn will protect his Marowak, wants to keep it around. Tapu Lele's Psychic is going into the Protect, so Bjorn trying to make a read here. Celesteela gets its Substitute up, though, and Celesteela behind a Substitute is a very scary thing. Trevenant shows Woodhammer onto Tapu Lele, going to be able to pick up the KO there. Woodhammer is an interesting choice, maybe signaling that he does not have a Ghost-type attack to attack through there, but you know, picks up a KO. It's not going to be a 4-0, but Celesteela behind a Substitute is where you want to be.
Yeah, Celesteela behind a Substitute with Leftovers even. It can now, if it has Protect, it can just stall for more time, get more HP, or it could just start dealing Heavy Slams. While it's not going to deal a lot of damage to this Trevenant Alolan Marowak combo, it's certainly going to help move things in his favor. I'm curious to see what Pokemon Patrick brought in the back, though. He's taking some time to think about it, so I imagine he's trying to decide, should I show my last Pokemon or not? Instead, we're going to see that Garchomp again.
Yeah, it does not want to show the last Pokemon. Marowak, of course, did protect itself last turn, so it is wide open to being punished by a Garchomp ground-type attack. Trevenant, of course, not as worried about it, but you know, Bjorn will really need to get this Garchomp off the field before Marowak can actually start doing work.
Yeah, it is only at 13 HP, and we did see Trevenant have a Woodhammer, so it could use that again if it had maybe any Ghost-type
goes
attacks.
for the Double Protect, doesn't get the Double Protect. Bjorn had to go for that Double Protect, but unfortunately not enough. Patrick slams the ground, and Garchomp is powering up for its Groundium Z-powered full force Z move, the Tectonic Rage.
That is just going to decimate that Marowak, sending it, I don't even know how deep into the Earth's core.
It explodes into a giant volcano, and Marowak, easy one-hit KO. You do not want to make that Garchomp angry.
No, definitely not. Celesteela following up with another Heavy Slam into the Trevenant. While it's not going to deal enough damage for the knockout, it does reveal the Citrus Berry, so that's more information going into game 2, but this Trevenant really has a tall order if it's going to try and turn things around in this game.
Especially if its attacking move is Woodhammer. It's already going to be taking recoil damage plus the rough skin, so that Citrus Berry is not a It's back to normal Citrus Berry.
Yeah, it basically nullified all of the health it got from that Citrus Berry, which is unfortunate, I guess, but Trevenant on its own, I don't
Taunt's
know.
gone.
Taunt's gone. Okay, we can get Trick Room back up.
Yeah.
But again,
harvest the Citrus Berry. Trevenant's
Okay.
trying.
It's trying really hard. I guess it still has some tricks up its sleeve, but Arcanine, I don't know. Again, tall order here for that Trevenant.
Yeah, Arcanine's Intimidate, reducing the power of Woodhammer, plus Arcanine, if it has any fire moves whatsoever, should be more than enough to take care of this Trevenant and send us into Game 2. In this game, we really saw the power of Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain there, making that so that Bjorn could not get that Trick Room up, nullifying the fake-out pressure, and really putting him on the back foot from turn 1.
Yeah, so going into Game 2, Bjorn really needs to be able to respond to that Tapu Lele. One interesting option he has, we did see the Tapu Fini. He could always switch it in, maybe get rid of that terrain, but then he can't really set fake out and do that at the same time.
Needs
so,
Tapu Fini to also have fake out.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder, maybe we'll see his Nihilego, because it's a very strong Pokemon. It is a part poison type Pokemon, so it has the potential to knock out any fairies. Not that Tapu Lele is one of them. But he really needs to think about what Pokemon he brought into Game 1 and really change things up. Otherwise, Patrick's just going to keep doing the same thing he did in Game 1 and bring his strong Pokemon, have them use strong attacks, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with how heavily Patrick has teched against Trick Room, Bjorn's going to have to either find some wacky, creative way of setting up Trick Room or go for a faster mode on that team. Otherwise, you know, Tapu Fini, it was bulky, it survived, it got a calm mind up, but, you know, that's just not enough offensive pressure.
Yeah, it's one of the unfortunate things about bringing a Trick Room team into a regional championship like this. If you get paired up against someone who's done their homework, so to speak, and brings enough to stop Trick Room no matter what, you're kind of out of luck. So we'll have to see if Bjorn has a fast mode. Usually Trick Room teams have them nowadays, and I certainly see options for them on his team. I just don't know if the pieces will come together in a way that will be favorable for him. Patrick, too, I mean, he could decide to switch things up. Maybe he'll make another good read and just call out his lead again and take the advantage. There's a lot up in the air right now.
Yeah, well, of course, Patrick did win the first game, so feeling pretty good about that. Doesn't have to make any changes if he doesn't want to. Bjorn, however, feeling the pressure. You never want to drop this early on in a tournament, especially a player who has, you know, top cut nationals before. You know, Bjorn has been on the big stage, and dropping in round 2 would be it would hurt the ego.
It would hurt the ego, but he is used to this pressure. So who knows? Maybe this is what he needs to sort of kick his mind into gear. It's still pretty early.
Yeah, get the adrenaline going.
Yeah, get the adrenaline going. You don't need coffee. You have your Pokemon battles.
All right, well, here we are. Game 2. Both of our competitors out on the field, and it looks like Bjorn will be making that adjustment, going for the Persian and Nihilego lead up against Celesteela and the Tapu Lele for Patrick. So both players making some slight adjustments here, getting the Celesteela out early on Patrick's side and the Nihilego for Bjorn.
Yeah, unfortunately that Persian will still not be able to fake out if it knows it because of that psychic terrain, but Nihilego is a very powerful Pokemon. It certainly won't knock out Celesteela, but it has access to rock-type moves because it's Poison Rock, so it can hit it with something super effective, maybe deal enough chip damage on it right away to make it easier to knock out later. He can target the Tapu Lele, so if Treviant's in the back, he can get Trick Room up. He certainly has more options this time around than he did in Game 1.
Yeah, definitely don't let Nihilego's appearance fool you. It is a rock poison type Pokemon, even though it is a jellyfish. Well, Tapu Lele is going to protect itself this turn, does not want to take any damage from either that Persian or the Nihilego. Persian will go for a fake out onto Celesteela, though, so will deal not very effective damage. Sludge Bomb into the protect from Nihilego, and Celesteela will flinch.
Yeah, so even though Persian's fake out wasn't its normal priority tier,
it was
still faster, we did see that flinch effect. So that was a really strong play, I think, from Bjorn. Maybe noticing the speeds of those Pokemon last game, taking that information into Game 2. Or maybe just having a hunch that since Tapu Lele was probably the most effective Pokemon from Game 1 that it might not attack this turn, and to try and stop the Celesteela from possibly getting a substitute up, or who knows what else it's carrying.
Yeah, very heads-up play there from Bjorn. Unfortunately, after the leftovers recovery, literally nothing happened.
But sometimes having that flinch, just maybe it makes him feel a little bit better going into this game. We do see the foul play from Persian to start things out this turn into the Tapu Lele.
Tapu Lele, unfortunately, does not have that much damage to its name, but the Sludge Bomb will be able to pick up the KO this time around, so that Tapu Lele, which was such a difficult Pokemon to deal with previously, is now off the field and crucially gives the Beast Boost to Nihilego, picks up the special attack. The Heavy Slam is so much damage, but not enough. The Focus Sash onto that Rock Poison Jelly, going to keep it around for one more turn.
And that one turn is so crucial here. Now
with the
boost, it has the opportunity to attack either of Patrick's Pokemon next turn. It is Rock type. We could see a Rock type attack into that Celesteela. That boost will certainly help there. Or who knows, maybe if Patrick sends in that Garchomp, it might be time to try and target that down. We did see the foul play only do about half of Garchomp's health for damage last game.
Yeah, really important knockout there for Bjorn to get that boost in the Focus Sash, letting it stick around. And especially with Psychic Terrain up, doesn't have to worry about priority.
Not that any of these Pokemon really get access to priority moves, though, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the back it could have been.
That is true.
Arcanine still has extreme speed, right?
I can't remember, unfortunately. But yes.
I think that might not be yet.
Still, though, knowing that the Garchomp is around will certainly, I think, give Bjorn a little bit more confidence going into Game 3 if we see that. I mean, we've seen 3 of the same Pokemon, and Garchomp stalling for a little more time.
Garchomp will protect. Bjorn needs to make the right call here. Parting shot from Persian into Garchomp's protect. Nihilego does go for the
only real option here is to go for the knockout, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, if he can get it through the Citrus Berry, it's going to be a huge roll. I mean, you have to wonder... I mean, it's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight, and these Pokemon that Patrick are using are common enough that if Bjorn also did his homework, he could have, maybe given Trevenant enough health, enough defense to sort of still be around after the Citrus Berry if he were to take, let's say, maybe a Dragon Claw and a Heavy Slam from Celesteela. But wow, Persian starting this turn off with a taunt.
Persian goes for the taunt onto Celesteela, making sure that it can't use Leech Seed or Substitute anymore. Garchomp, though, is going to go for its Tectonic Rage again, trying to deal as much damage as possible here. Who is he going to drag down to the center of the earth this time? Persian. Oh, that poor kitty.
I don't think that Persian's going to like being shot into the Earth's core.
Oh, that Persian gets roasted, but holds on. Celesteela is not able to get the substitute up, and the Trick Room will go up from Trevenant. Persian holding on with, I believe its new ability, Fur Coat, cuts damage of physical attacks, allowing it to survive that Tectonic Rage.
Yeah, that was definitely huge there. I think what happened was Patrick maybe remembered Game 1 where Bjorn protected with his Trevenant. Thought, oh, maybe if I target that Persian, get it knocked out, get Celesteela up with a substitute, I should be all set no matter what happens. But great play by Bjorn, getting that Trick Room up. Persian now has such low health, actually, that he might be able to just wait for it to get knocked out and bring in whatever Pokemon he has in the back for free next turn and still have 4 turns of Trick Room at his disposal, which could be huge given that they're still pretty much tied.
Oh, unfortunate miss on that Will-O-Wisp. Heavy Slam from Celesteela onto Trevenant. Not quite 50%, not activating the Citrus Berry. This Earthquake should be more than enough to do that, though. Will knock the Trevenant down and pick up the KO onto Persian. So Trevenant healing up a little bit. Persian will faint, and now Bjorn can bring in whatever his final Pokemon is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Will-O-Wisp missed. However, he will have another go at it before Garchomp can attack again, provided Garchomp doesn't protect the next turn and Celesteela somehow knocks out that Trevenant. So not the worst time to miss a Will-O-Wisp, but, being able to take less damage from that Earthquake is always appreciated.
And the Marowak is the Pokemon in the back, which has a great matchup against that Celesteela. To a lesser extent, the Garchomp, but under Trick Room, that plus the Trevenant should feel Bjorn should feel more than comfortable to just power that down.
Yeah, and that Celesteela is still taunted, so even if it did have a move like Protect, it can't use it right now. So if anything, we'll see it switch out, and that's just more free damage for Bjorn.
Yeah, or it could just go for the Heavy Slam onto Trevenant again. Wasn't quite enough last time, but could get it down to a more manageable hit points level.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of options for both Patrick and Bjorn right now. This game certainly isn't over. Bjorn really needs to think hard about these next few turns and make sure that he keeps positioning himself correctly on the field. Otherwise, I think Patrick might be able to gain some of that momentum back. But again, it's all up in the air, and we're going to see Celesteela leave.
Ooh, Arcanine is the choice in the back for Patrick. Getting that Intimidate off onto both of these Pokemon will be pretty big for Patrick. Of course, cutting the attack of the Alolan Marowak and the Trevenant. Garchomp does go for a Protect of its own. Does not want to take any Wood Hammers or anything else. Flare Blitz from Marowak targeted the Celesteela, but instead will hit the Arcanine, which is a very bulky Pokemon, not very effective hit. Not that much different from the recoil damage onto Marowak, and another Wood Hammer onto Arcanine. Not very effective damage as well, and more recoil damage.
Yeah, that was a great switch by Patrick. Arcanine has the benefit of being a fire type, and it gets that Intimidate. So essentially, almost nothing happened that turn. We do see the
Trevenant
Citrus
finds
Berry.
a Citrus Berry.
Yeah, that was a lucky find for Bjorn. Certainly will help him moving forward, especially since it seems like both of his really heavy-hitting damage moves cause recoil, which is not really what you want in this sort of situation where these are your last two Pokemon and you're intimidated.
Yeah, Bjorn needs to be very careful, though, that Arcanine isn't allowed to get more Intimidates off. Patrick still has Celesteela in the back, still can start cycling those Intimidates. You know, Marowak loves to catch a Celesteela with a Flare Blitz, less so with a Bone Meringue.
Definitely. So Bjorn really needs to take his time and think through what he thinks is going to happen these next turns. If I were in Patrick's shoes, I probably would try and go for cycling things out because that helps you stall out Trick Room.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, we see the Arcanine remain on the field.
Yeah, Arcanine remains on the field. Garchomp retreats, just hoping to save that for after Trick Room. So it looks like Patrick has decided that the play is stall, 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 wait for Trick Room to end. Marowak did go for the Bone Meringue onto the Arcanine, but Trevenant actually hits its Will-O-Wisp this time, will connect with Celesteela, so it will start taking a little bit of burn damage to cancel out that some of the leftovers recovery there, and make those heavy slams less effective.
Yeah, but Patrick is still in a great spot, I think. Really, his win condition...
He just
needs to stall a couple more turns, and then this game is his. That's the unfortunate thing about Trick Room here is, you know, knowing there's that Intimidate sort of puts enough pressure onto Bjorn that if he can't deal the damage he needs, and Patrick can keep stalling for time until he has the speed advantage once again, that's just how the game's going to play out.
Yeah, really interesting decisions for both players to make here. Of course, Patrick can switch out, protect that Arcanine a little bit by switching around to Garchomp, but no free switch-ins this time. Garchomp would take damage from Marowak if it switched in here, and you know, don't really want to get damage on your primary offensive threat coming on anymore. Marowak does go for the Boomerang, no switches, so Arcanine will just take the damage. Oh, it's going to be close.
It's going to be really
Is it going to be enough?
Oh!
It is! Bjorn just picking up that KO there on the second hit of the Bone Meringue. Arcanine will go down. Trevenant with another Will-O-Wisp, but Celesteela is already burned. Leech Seed onto Alolan Marowak. Of course, Trevenant cannot be seeded as a grass type, so cutting down some of Celesteela's recovery options there.
But still, Celesteela is... I mean, I think if Bjorn can't really knock it out within the next couple turns, I think Celesteela is just going to be able to stay around long enough for that Garchomp to knock out the Marowak.
Yeah.
And then that Trevenant, I just don't really see it doing well in a
Trick Room's
Celesteela matchup.
Yeah, Trick Room is over, so Garchomp gets to come in here for free and threaten that Alolan Marowak immediately.
We did
really well played.
Yeah, we did see the ground type Z move, and I believe we also saw an Earthquake. Celesteela is flying, so it won't take any damage. Really, Patrick has a lot of options here, and they all look pretty good for him, all things considered.
Yeah, it's almost like he's looking down at his DS, and every button has turned into a win button.
Yeah.
Except the run button. Don't click the run button.
Yeah, and, you know, it's kind of... I'm sure he feels pretty, I mean, he still looks pretty serious, but I'm sure he feels pretty assured right now, having such a command of the field the entirety of really both of these games.
Really well played by Patrick to position himself in such a way that he, kept track of the Trick Room terms, was able to get his Garchomp out for free on that KO, and now immediately threatening both these Pokemon. Trevenant already running scared, protects itself, while Garchomp uses Dragon Claw into the Protect, actually, trying to predict a Protect on the Alolan Marowak. Celesteela will get the Substitute up, while Marowak's Flare Blitz should connect into that Substitute. So, able to prevent itself from getting Flare Blitzed one turn, but Bjorn's going to need a lot more turns like that, and he's dealing damage to himself.
Yeah, that was a great Protect on the Trevenant there. But
can't do that every turn.
Yeah, can't do that every turn, and the Garchomp, I think, is really the threat that needs to be stopped by Bjorn right now. While Celesteela will just keep sitting, pretty happy on the field, recovering health from that Leech Seed, recovering health from that leftover. Garchomp is really the primary attacker right now, and if Bjorn could somehow maneuver this into a 2-on-1 situation with that Celesteela being the last Pokemon on the field, he might have a chance, but really that Garchomp is standing like right in the way of that win condition for him. So
yeah, it does not look like it's moving any day.
It doesn't. We do see the Marowak Protect, though, so I can't help but wonder if he's going to attempt a Trick Room right now.
Oh, well, the Dragon Claw onto Trevenant is going to be enough to... Ooh, is not going to be enough to pick up the KO there, so Trevenant will be able to heal up a little bit. So if Trevenant's able to get this Trick Room off, Celesteela is going for the Substitute. That extra Citrus Berry coming in handy for Bjorn. Trick Room does come up. So Patrick, who had spent a lot of time trying to get the Trick Room over, now has to deal with it again. But this time, crucially, Celesteela has the Substitute up.
Celesteela has a Substitute up.
And Marowak's taken like an extra 4 turns of Leech Seed damage.
Yeah, it has that Leech Seed recovery. It has that Leftovers recovery. This will give Trevenant another shot at burning the Garchomp, but I don't know if that's really sort of importance right now. It's still at full health. It's certainly not going to take a lot of damage from Marowak. Maybe a Shadow Bone would be great here if it has it. But I would think that Bjorn would have to wish for a little bit of luck, maybe some help from a critical hit. There's still a lot up in the air, and his Pokemon are slowly being whittled away. I'm not sure if he can really stop that at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, Bjorn is on a very serious timer here with the Leech Seed damage. Shadow Bone will connect with Garchomp, deal a good amount of damage, about 50% there. Another Will-O-Wisp from Trevenant will connect this time, so Garchomp is going to take the burn, not going to be able to deal as much damage as it wants to. But behind the Substitute, Celesteela is safe to go for a Heavy Slam onto Trevenant. Should have some pretty good damage even through the burn. Almost picking up the KO there. Garchomp's Earthquake does not affect Celesteela. Will connect to both the Marowak and Trevenant. And even though it's burnt, this should still be enough to pick up the KO onto Trevenant. Marowak survives, though.
Marowak barely hanging on there. Very impressive, maybe even though Pokemon of Me doesn't really have any effect on these trainers, or Pokemon Refresh, excuse me. Wrong generation. Maybe Marowak just wanted to hold on for that last
tick of Leech Seed.
ticks of Leech Seed. It tried its best. Bjorn played very well, but Patrick just was so good at managing his win conditions throughout that game. That kind of ability brought him to the top cut of the Arizona Regionals, and who knows, maybe it'll carry him through today.
Yeah, that was some really strong positional play from Patrick, being able to correctly count all the turns.
Round 1 of this tournament with that Z Splash tech. I wonder if Gary's bringing something a little bit different this time around.
And Gary even has a Z bracelet.
Oh!
He's ready to activate his Z crystals whenever he needs it. So, we do see the Eevee team here, and it's... He has a lot of ways to set up right now. Fairy with the Follow Me and the Friend Guard going to be able to provide a lot of support for Giovanni to try to set up the Eevee boosts.
Yeah, wow, this is such an interesting matchup. I'm looking at Gary's team right now, and he has the Porygon 2, he has the Mimikyu. Those almost look like 2 different Pokemon that could either set up Trick Room or take advantage of Trick Room. It looks like he's done a really good job of sort of balancing the speed of his Pokemon and making sure he has both that fast mode and that slow mode that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and Gastrodon is one of those Pokemon, coming into this beginning of the format, wasn't really sure exactly how much of an impact it would play since it does not get Earth Power anymore, but it's clearly around to stay as we do see the teams again.
Yeah, well, we saw it last week with that Z stockpile, healing all of its health before getting a +1 special defense and defense boost. And it gets access to Toxic, Recover. It's one of those Pokemon that, unless you have something like Tapu Bulu or maybe even a Trevenant, it's hard to get it off the field.
Yeah, and, I think Gary right now, once you look at this team on Giovanni's side, you want to figure out, I hope Eevee cannot set up.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how Gary's going to stop that Eevee. Tapu Koko certainly is a powerful Pokemon that's good at many different things. Maybe knocking Eevee out will be one of them. We'll have to see. Honestly, with that Crocodile on Giovanni's side of the field, there's enough sort of give and take on both of these teams that I think it's really going to come down to what they lead and what they do that first turn. It's very critical to sort of set the field up right, especially when you're running I would almost call Giovanni's team like a situational team. Unless he has a couple of tricks up his sleeves, we'll have to see.
And the players are getting ready to get underway right now. We are ready here, round 3 in the San Jose Regional Championships. Giovanni Costa on the right versus Gary Chan on your left. Both players, high-level players that we've already seen on stream before in past events, high-level events, national championships, world championships. Here they are ready to go as we do see Pheromosa and Eevee out for Giovanni. Oh boy, the Eevee's already out as we do see Mimikyu and Tapu Koko come out for Gary's side. We are going to see the electric terrain get set up, but Eevee's out on the field. Now Gary has to prevent this Eevee from being able to set up.
Yeah, the electric terrain will certainly boost Tapu Koko's attacks if he decides to attack the Eevee, but it's also on Giovanni's part. Maybe he'll protect the Eevee this turn. Maybe he'll switch it out, save it for later. That Pheromosa, though, certainly a very powerful Pokemon. Maybe it'll try and get a knockout here before anything else can happen.
Yeah, Pheromosa does hit hard. It's also the fastest Pokemon in the format. It doesn't look like it can pick up any KOs, though, because Mimikyu has Disguise and Tapu Koko resists really what Pheromosa can throw at it. As we do see the Poison Jab connect onto Tapu Koko with a Focus Sash on Gary's side. Very frail Tapu Koko hanging on as we do see the Life Orb from Pheromosa. Dazzling Gleam right now from Tapu Koko. Gonna connect onto both Eevee and Pheromosa. Wow, picks up the KO on Pheromosa right off the bat. Very frail Pokemon as Mimikyu does set up a curse, and now Eevee gets to move. I think it's time for the Eevee boost.
I hope so, but that curse did get laid on Eevee, so I don't know what kind of effect it's going to have moving forward. But look, they're doing the Z dance.
They did it.
That is amazing. Shout outs to Gary and Giovanni doing it together. I think that was the first time we've ever seen a Z move dance on stream by the actual trainers.
And we see the Extreme Eevee boost go off right now. Gonna go ahead and start setting up as we do see all the Eevee evolutions come out onto the field and give Eevee their powers to be able to boost up young Eevee. Hopefully this Eevee can grow up to be one of them someday. As we do see the beams get shot at the Eevee. Do you feel the power?
I feel the power. That Eevee, it is ready to battle now. Definitely don't count it out, even though it hasn't evolved yet. All of those boosts in the attack, defense, special defense, speed. That'll certainly help it moving forward, even though it will take some damage thanks to Mimikyu's curse.
Yeah, and I believe curse, if you baton pass it off, the curse stays. So that's a kind of a strange tech from Gary's side, but it's a cool tech. Yeah, it works.
Eevee possibly can't do a lot of damage on its own, so being able to sort of punish the fact that Giovanni has to either baton pass or otherwise pass those stats on to something else on his team, very well played.
And we do see Crocodile come in, going to go ahead and intimidate. Mimikyu is, of course, usually a physical attacker. Tapu Koko, as we've already seen, is the Dazzling Gleam variant, the special variant, so not going to affect it that much, probably.
Yeah, interesting that we saw Crocodile get sent in right now. We have already seen Dazzling Gleam on the Tapu Koko, and if it moves first, Crocodile is part Dark type, which means it'll be taking some super effective damage from that Dazzling Gleam. So hopefully Giovanni has a plan, otherwise this might not work out for him as he wants it to.
Yeah, so we'll have to see exactly what Giovanni decides to do with the Eevee, though, because I'm not sure what else Eevee can do besides pass it off.
I don't know. It all comes down to, I guess, what Pokemon he has in the back and whether or not that Pokemon can deal enough damage with that curse sort of counting the turns left in this game.
And we do see Crocodile now withdraw, going to go ahead and recycle that Intimidate. We do see Tapu Fini come in right now, going to go ahead and reset the terrain, going to activate the Misty Terrain, taking away Tapu Koko's boost and electric type attacks. Possibly not even going for an electric type attack here, as we do see Eevee now baton pass off into that Crocodile. Crocodile's going to come in, go for another Intimidate with the boost right now. So this Crocodile is ready to go.
Yeah, that was a great play by Giovanni there. He was able to intimidate his opponent twice and get baton pass all of Eevee's stat boosts onto a Pokemon that can definitely take more advantage of him than that Tapu Fini, who's traditionally a very defensive Pokemon.
And we do see the Dazzling Gleam connect, as we do see Gary now activate his Z move. No dance this time, but we do see the, I believe it's going to be the Z... the Ghost?
Yes, I believe that
Ghost
little
Z-Gem.
creepy shiver
Right.
that the trainer did.
And we do see Z Curse activate. Gonna go ahead and cut its own HP to pursue another curse after healing itself all the way back to full health.
Yeah, that was, again, a great play, a very interesting tech. Tapu Fini reveals its leftovers, so taking that curse residual damage is certainly not going to be kind to it. I mean, look at how much damage it did to that Crocodile. It forced it to activate its Citrus Berry, most likely before Giovanni really wanted to see it present on the field. And there it is, again, just such an amazing move. I would not expect that Mimikyu to be able to deal so much damage by simply not attacking.
I take back what I said about this being a fairly standard team for Gary. I've never seen Curse in a VGC battle.
Certainly never Z-Curse
Not
either.
Z-Curse, obviously never Z-Curse, but this is amazing right now because there's timers on Crocodile and Tapu Fini.
Yeah, and Giovanni is being forced to keep switching to try and cycle these timers out, withdrawing that Tapu Fini, sending back the Eevee. It looks like Tapu Koko's protecting, so we might not see a knockout there, but poor Eevee.
We do see Crocodile now go for an Earthquake. Tapu Koko protects itself as Mimikyu here is going to get knocked out and going to go ahead and knock out his own Eevee as well.
But Mimikyu still had its disguise
yeah, it
up.
still hasn't been broken yet, so Crocodile has one more turn before it gets knocked out from the curse, so that is... Oh, man, this Mimikyu is doing so much work, as it does go for Play Rough, too. Connects onto the Crocodile, and it picks up the KO with a critical hit to bypass the defense boost, but still, it looks like Giovanni's team is going to fall to this game, but, you know, you can always take it back to the drawing board.
Yeah, definitely. Giovanni now knows what these two Pokemon do, and he certainly has the tools present on his team to maybe play around this a little better. It's possible that he just got excited about being on stream. Maybe he definitely wanted to bring Eevee so we could get that Z move out of the way.
They're both 2-0.
They're both 2-0.
They're both 2-0, so this team works. It's just now Giovanni has to figure out how to make it work against Gary's team.
Yeah, I don't really know how you can stop Curse. Maybe if he has a Pokemon with Taunt, but then you have to wonder, what if Gary doesn't even lead that Mimikyu next game? Maybe he'll keep it in the back and then allow some Pokemon to sort of scout out what counters we have for the Curse. We see it again activating, cutting Mimikyu's HP down to nothing.
Just go ahead and knocks itself out.
Knocks itself out for the benefit of knowing that that Tapu Fini will be knocked out in maybe 1 turn, 2 turns. It can't be that many. We do see the Scald into the Arcanine revealing its Citrus Berry, but again, that's not going to deal enough for a knockout, especially if that Arcanine has Protect and can stall long enough for the Curse to knock out the Tapu Fini for it.
Yeah, and just after this turn, 2 more turns, and then the Curse damage will knock out Tapu Fini, Fini for a lot of damage. You know, Giovanni right there kind of read right through it, scalded the Arcanine, picked up the KO, so we'll have to see if Tapu Fini or Muck can survive just 1 more turn, although leftovers might be able to prevent it from getting knocked out.
Yeah, it's going to be a really close call here. We do see Tapu Koko
and there's still Tapu Koko, of
take
course.
the field. It does have 1 HP, but I believe Tapu Koko is traditionally faster than Tapu Fini, so even a Thunderbolt here, it'll be boosted by the electric terrain, and it'll be super effective thanks to Tapu Fini's water typing. I'm not really sure if Giovanni can play his way out of this 2 versus 1 scenario.
Right, and of course the Curse timer's still on, the pressure's on from that Mimikyu, so impressive, very impressive play from Gary Cheon, as we do see Giovanni go ahead and forfeit that game.
Yeah, I think that was a good call on his part. I think he got as much information as he was going to get from that game, and with the new timer, with that round timer in effect, we have 50 minutes for the round. Sometimes forfeiting early actually gives you more time to play out your next few games.
Right, it definitely becomes a situation where you have to make a decision. You know, should I stall this out to get more information, or do I have everything I need from this game? We gotta go. I don't want to go to sudden death.
Yeah, I think if I were in Giovanni, shoes right now, I'd be thinking to myself, I don't think that Gary can pack any more tricks into his team other than that curse. So
You never know.
I mean, it is Pokemon. You do never know, but we'll just have to see. He certainly decided to bring an interesting 6 Pokemon with him.
Right. You know, Giovanni does have some ways to bypass the curse, so you can always bring in the Clefairy, get a Follow Me off, so prevent the curse from hitting your Evo boost, extreme Evo boosted Pokemon.
Yes, but you have to wonder, I mean, Clefairy and Eevee are 2 Pokemon that won't be able to deal as much damage in comparison to some of the other Pokemon on his team. Is having that guaranteed extreme Evo boost worth the sacrifice of essentially half your team? We'll just have to see what kind of call he makes. It looks like these trainers are getting ready to jump into Game 2.
Yeah, and here we go. Game 2.
Here we go. Game 2.
Gary Chan currently up 1-0 in the set. Giovanni trying to claw back. Needs to pick up a win here to force a Game 3 in Round 3 of the 2017 Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships. We see the Mimikyu and the Tapu Koko leads again for Gary as Eevee and Clefairy come out for Giovanni's side now.
Alright, that's a very interesting play. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I think it's safe to say that Giovanni has a lot of confidence in his Eevee and using that extreme Evo boost to his advantage. So we'll have to see how he's decided to switch things up going into Game 2. Maybe he's going to baton pass into something that might have more of a competitive advantage against that Mimikyu or against that Tapu Koko, but it's really all up in the air right now. I'm very surprised, though, to see this lead.
Yeah, and, you know, Clefairy can draw it away, but at the same time, you know, I'm pretty sure Gary has something to deal with this Follow Me.
Yeah, he must, right? I mean, it seems like he's accounted for everything, but here's the Follow Me. Let's see what he's going to do.
Clefairy now going to draw away all single target attacks as Tapu Koko going now for a Thunderbolt into the Clefairy slot, boosted by the Electric Train. Does get paralyzed. Paralysis, of course, did get a little less bad in between X and Y in here as Clefairy does get taunted as Eevee now gets to go for the extreme Evo boost. Giovanni still dancing. He's excited to see the Eevee get boosted with 2 stages of increased everything.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be excited to see that?
And again, here we are with the Eevee calling for its brothers in arms here, getting ready to get powered up from all of the elements. What happens if there's another Eevee like introduced in the next games, right?
I don't know. Maybe we'll see something like an evasion or an accuracy boost on top of this, but I don't know. That getting that boost already in every other stat, I feel like adding anything to that would just be, it would be insane. This Eevee would like be super Eevee at that point.
Sheer concentration from that Eevee to get boosted in every single stat sharply. Now 2 stages of increased everything, doubling its stats in all fields. Going to try to baton pass this way as Clefairy now paralyzed and cannot go for another Follow Me though.
Yeah, unfortunately it looks like Giovanni is either going to have to switch that Clefairy out, or maybe if it does carry an attacking move, maybe this would be a great time for him to break Mimikyu's disguise. But we do see a switch.
Yeah, Clefairy now switching out, going into Tapu Bulu. Going to go ahead and try to provide a little bit more recovery to his team and get rid of the electric terrain. Grassy terrain, of course, going to heal every Pokemon that's grounded. As we do see Eevee go for a return now. Offensive Eevee doing a lot of damage to Tapu Koko. Survives as Tapu Koko now goes for a Dazzling Gleam connecting onto Eevee and Tapu Bulu with a critical hit as Mimikyu now going for the curse on to what I believe is going to be the Eevee. Yep, there it is, the Eevee curse. As Eevee now restores a little bit of health from the grassy terrain. But wow, that was with a critical hit from Dazzling Gleam too.
That was very impressive actually. Poor Eevee, like, it tried to attack, it almost got that knockout on Tapu Koko, but it just fell short, but we did see it move first, so provided this curse doesn't knock it out, which I believe it shouldn't, it's going to hang around with enough HP to possibly baton pass into probably not the Clefairy. This might be when we see what Giovanni has brought as his 4th Pokemon to this match.
You do have to be careful if you do baton pass to Pheromosa, because it is frail. Crocodile is the other option, I believe, from the Pokemon that could go on the offensive. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we did see a Dazzling Gleam into that Crocodile last game, and it did, honestly, a lot less damage than I was expecting. So if Giovanni brought that, maybe now's the time to send it out onto the field.
Yeah, and Intimidating on the Mimikyu could be good, but we do see Eevee now baton pass, going to go back to either Clefairy or most likely the 4th Pokemon that Giovanni brought to this battle. We'll have to see what it is. Is Giovanni now trying to decide which Pokemon? It is going to be the Crocodile. Does get the Intimidate. has double in every single stat, which I never thought I'd see a move that would ever do that. But we do see Mimikyu now have one stage of reduced attack as Dazzling Gleam connects. Super effective onto the Crocodile, does a little bit of damage. Wow, that boost does a lot of work. As Mimikyu now goes for the play rough, connects onto the Crocodile. Crocodile does hang on with about 40% as we do see the Citrus Berry activate, and now Crocodile is ready to go on a rampage.
It's ready to go on a rampage, and it'll also gain some additional health thanks to that grassy terrain that's been set up. Horn Leech from that Tapu Bulu looking to heal it as well, but Mimikyu's Disguise, it's still active. I don't believe we're going to see any health recovery this turn except from that grassy terrain.
Yeah, and wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to be seeing these matchups, but here we are. It's a new year. A lot of people are running some very interesting strategies, and Mimikyu is just out there doing its best.
And, you know, Gary still has the Z move still active on that Mimikyu if he really wants to, right?
Yeah, he can very easily heal it up and also take the opportunity to curse that Tapu Bulu and sort of offset the Horn Leech Grassy Terrain healing combo that Giovanni has potential to sort of take advantage of right now. Gary is definitely still in control of this game. Mimikyu is just doing wonders for his board control right now.
And we do see now Tapu Koko switch out. Gary now switching in Gastrodon. Not exactly a Pokemon you see switching into Tapu Bulu too often, as we do see Power Trip from Crocodile now. Going to go ahead and connect onto the Mimikyu, do a lot of damage, picks up the KO on Mimikyu. Mimikyu finally gets knocked out as Tapu Bulu goes for a Psych Up!
Oh, that is a wonderful play by Giovanni. Getting those attack, defense, special defense, all those good boosts from that Crocodile, and now it certainly has a type advantage against that Gastrodon moving forward. And now it probably will even outspeed that Tapu Koko if that's what Gary decides to send back out onto the field. And as an added bonus, it's not cursed.
What a setup right there from Giovanni. Tapu Bulu, of course, using that Psych Up. Psych Up's a very cool move with all these boosts coming around. We do see Tapu Koko come back out, go ahead and activate the Electric Surge, preventing the healing powers of Grassy Terrain.
Yeah, but it certainly is not in the best position right now. Crocodile is most likely faster. Crocodile is a dark ground type Pokemon, so it most likely has some sort of move that can deal enough damage to knock it out this turn. Gastrodon's a little bit bulkier, but it's very slow, and Tapu Bulu should be able to target it. So Gary really has to think about what he's going to do here. I don't believe we've seen his last Pokemon yet, so who knows? Instead, we see that Crocodile switch out into Clefairy.
Clefairy can provide support again, as we do see Gastrodon switch back out as well, trying to bait a Horn Leech into that slot, I believe. As we do see Muck come in right now. We'll have to see what Muck can do here as Tapu Koko protects itself, not wanting to get knocked out just yet, provide Gary a little bit of room to switch if necessary. As we do see the Horn Leech in that Muck slot, so good bait right there from Gary, but it still does a lot of damage.
It still does a lot of damage for a move that's not very effective, and it practically heals Tapu Bulu to full health.
That is insane how tough this Tapu Bulu is going to be to knock out right now. It can go for a Gunk Shot to pick up the KO on Tapu Bulu if it can get it off, though.
Yeah, Clefairy is on the field, and it's not taunted anymore because it's switched out, so all it really needs to do here is follow me, and it buys Tapu Bulu at least one more turn to target down these Pokemon. So we do see the follow me, so it's all up to Giovanni to identify which Pokemon he sees here as a bigger threat.
And we see Tapu Bulu, of course, outspeed and just go straight for it. Woodhammer now onto that Mug. For sure, that's a KO. Horn Leech did so much damage. Woodhammer is way stronger than Horn Leech, so big damage from that Tapu Bulu after it got boosted, as Tapu Koko now goes for a Thunderbolt onto the Clefairy because of the redirection and does not even pick up the KO on Clefairy, so I think now it's time for Gary to go back to the drawing board for Game 3.
Yeah, this has been such an exciting match. Giovanni did an amazing job just sort of turning everything around and using what he learned about Gary's team in Game 1 against him. Just being able to keep switching to stop that curse from dealing as much damage, psyching up that extreme Evo boost, which was huge. I know I doubted the Clefairy Eevee lead at first, but I want to take that back. It's clearly won him this game.
And we do see the Horn Leech now from Tapu Bulu connect onto Gastrodon, picks up the one-hit KO. Super effective damage after those attack boosts.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Yeah, Gary right there shaking Giovanni's hand already, and they are ready to move on to Game 3. As you know, the game's not exactly over yet, but they know they know in their minds that it's time to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll most likely see Gary click in a forfeit here, just like we saw Giovanni click in a forfeit last turn. Just to save him that time, I don't think we're running up against the round timer quite yet, but you might as well just take those extra seconds where you have them just in case you need them.
Right, and I don't think there's much more information to gather. We've already picked up all of Tapu Bulu's moveset. You know, we've seen the Horn Leech, we've seen the Wood Hammer, we've seen the Psych Up, we've seen the Protect, I believe, as well. A lot of Pokemon do carry Protect, as we do see Tapu Bulu connect onto that Horn Leech anyways. Picks up the KO on Tapu Koko, maybe trying to see what Eevee can do? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, we already saw the Eevee return Baton Pass.
Last resort, because it has to have that for the Extreme Evo boost.
Definitely. I would be surprised to see much else from that Eevee, to be honest with you. But who knows? It already has surprised me like 2 or 3 times today, so definitely don't want to, you know, count it completely out.
And we are now going into Game 3 here. You can see Gary trying to stay focused, not trying to count in his head exactly how to counter this Eevee team. You know, he had it in Game 1. Now he has to figure out in Game 3. Winner of this game, wins the entire match. So, oh boy, big game right here for both players.
It's definitely a big game, and I think Gary sort of relied on his Mimikyu too much in that second game, and Gio was able to consider, you know, here's how Mimikyu sort of operated in this previous game, so here's how I'm going to counter it moving forward. I think if Gary wants to win this game moving forwards, he's going to have to maybe try and figure out a way to stop that Extreme Evo boost without that Mimikyu, maybe saving it for later or just not bringing it at all.
Right.
He certainly has other options on his team to deal some damage.
And of course, we did see the adjustments from Giovanni. You know, the Follow Me was a much better setup than having Pheromosa out on the field to try to pick up KOs really fast. So great adjustments right there from Gio. And now it always comes down to the question, you know, it worked last game, is it going to work Game 3?
Yeah, Game 3 is always really hard because you really got to think, and it just, all the pressure's on. And just trying to figure out, like, will my opponent do something similar? Maybe they won't. I don't know. I mean, Gary has led the same thing for both these previous games. So Giovanni's certainly taking his time, both players shaking hands. I believe it's time to start this Game 3, finally.
This is such an exciting matchup, you don't even know. I mean, Curse Mimikyu out on the field to counter Eevee boost Eevee. What?
I know. Who would have thought, right? 1 year ago, if you would have told me that, I would have been like, well, first I would have said, what's a Mimikyu? But after that, I would have been like, there's no way.
And we do see Arcanine and Mimikyu out for Gary. Chan side, Clefairy and Eevee again. If the leads worked last time, why change it? Says Giovanni Costa. I believe he's saying that right now, right?
Yeah. Definitely, but props to Gary, you know, that Intimidate onto the Eevee will mean it will only get a 1-stage attack boost, and if Eevee decides to Baton Pass into that Crocodile again, as we've seen the past 2 games, that'll certainly punish it a little bit. It'll still have that defensive capabilities, and if Clefairy is still on the field, it can take advantage of the Friend Guard ability if Clefairy has it. But it won't deal as much damage, so, you know, I guess you gotta take these advantages where you can get them. Maybe it'll allow Mimikyu to stay on the field a little bit longer as we see Arcanine retreat, saving that Intimidate again for later.
And we do see Porygon 2 come out right now. Going to go ahead and activate Download. Going to go ahead and boost its attack. Unfortunate for Gary's side unless we do see Return Porygon 2, but I doubt it. As we do see Eevee switch out right now, going into Crocodile, going for an Intimidate. Going to lower that attack back from Porygon 2 and of course intimidate that Mimikyu, but let's see what Mimikyu does. Does it go on the offensive or does it go for a Curse instead? We do see Clefairy protect itself, as we do see Mimikyu now go for a taunt onto the Crocodile. So, big taunt right there.
Definitely a big taunt, trying to stop that Eevee. We saw Gary also switch out that Arcanine, so if we did see another Baton Pass there, it could lower Crocodile's attack back to neutral with no boost, but instead, Giovanni switching that Eevee out, saving it for later, but is Eevee the kind of Pokemon that can sort of help you late game? I don't really know, to be honest with you.
You want to make sure that you have more Pokemon in the back, just in case.
Yeah.
Last Resort is a very powerful move. I'm being honest right there, but the setup to it is intense because you have to be able to use all your moves before you can use it again. So, boy, Eevee in the back, we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope Giovanni's really taking an opportunity to sort of think of what the board looks like right now, because if he sends that Eevee in too soon, I think that might be his loss condition for this game.
And we do see now Clefairy go for the follow me. Mimikyu now getting a taunt off on Clefairy. I believe that's what he wanted in the first place, just in case that Clefairy did use a follow me. As we do see Rock Tomb connect right now onto the Mimikyu, going to go ahead and lower the speed and break the disguise. So good call right there from Giovanni to break the disguise in sort of a better way than just hitting it. Porygon 2 now goes for a tri-attack. Going into the Clefairy, going to do a little bit of damage. Clefairy is so bulky, as we do see the end of the turn there.
Yeah, Clefairy is one of those Pokemon that it doesn't look very bulky, but if you give it an Eviolite, because it's not fully evolved, it boosts its attack, or excuse me, it boosts its defense even more, and being able to just take these attacks, I mean, Porygon 2 isn't really known for being much of a special attacker here. What I'm more curious about is Giovanni just used that Rock Tomb into a Mimikyu. Porygon 2 is one of those Pokemon that's known for setting up Trick Room in this format. That seems like a very risky play, and if Gary decides to Trick Room here, I can't help but wonder if that'll come back to haunt him.
Especially considering Mimikyu is a ghost type.
Especially considering Mimikyu is a ghost type, and if it were to be Eevee versus Mimikyu, it just would not end well, I believe, for Giovanni.
We do see Arcanine now come out, going to go for an Intimidate onto the Crocodile here. Now this Crocodile at one stage of decreased attack. That's pretty good. Crocodile does rely heavily on its physical attack, as we do see Clefairy switch out into Eevee right now. Eevee trying to set up an extreme Evo boost again, just in case, as we do see another Rock Tomb connect onto Arcanine. Does do super effective damage and lowers the speed of Arcanine, so good call right there as Porygon 2 connects on an Ice Beam here, targeting down this Crocodile, doing super effective damage, bringing it all the way down to Citrus Berry range. Gonna bring it back to about, I'd say, maybe 70% right there.
Yeah, that was definitely a stronger play, I think, from that Porygon this turn. Again, you don't really see them with more than 2 special attacking moves, so I think it's safe for Giovanni to assume at this point that Tri-Attack and Ice Beam are the moves that he's going to have to maneuver around moving forward. What I think the big question, though, for Gary right now is how do I stop that Eevee? Unless he has like a hidden taunt somewhere, I don't know if anything's going to stop Eevee from getting that extreme Evo boost up for the 3rd game in a row.
I mean, ideally, you have to knock this Eevee out, but we saw how bulky Eevee was, as we do see Crocodile withdraw itself, or not with itself, but does retreat, as we do see Clefairy now come in. Eevee maybe going to go for a Protect here. Arcanine switching out as well, going straight back into Mimikyu, who we know has Taunt, so...
It's definitely a revolving door of Pokemon right now. Both of these trainers trying to switch around to gain the advantage, and Eevee just using Protect, I guess?
Right there, yeah. Protect itself to get set himself up in better position to go for the Follow Me and the Extreme Evo boost. So we're going to see it right now.
Yeah, we are. That's definitely what Giovanni's going to click in this turn. So great positioning on his part, but wow, like there's so much sort of technicality going on right now between these trainers. You know, Giovanni trying to position himself so he can let Eevee shine in the way that it does best. Gary switching around to try and stop Eevee from getting those boosts, to make sure that he has the Pokemon in the back so he can bring out that Intimidate and otherwise stop the boost. Certainly a lot of mind games going on in this battle. We see yet another switch.
Yeah, and we do see Arcanine come in right now. Arcanine going to go for an Intimidate onto Eevee and Clefairy. Eevee does have Return and Last Resort, so that's going to be probably washed away from Extreme Evo boost. Clefairy now switches out to going to go straight into Tapu Bulu.
So we probably won't see a Baton Pass into Tapu Bulu, so it's possible he might try and rely on that Psych Up again?
Which is a great backup plan, in my opinion.
It's a great backup plan, but Clefairy taunting that Eevee.
As we do see Giovanni Costa go for the Extreme Evo boost here.
And we see the double dance again from these trainers. Giovanni, I think, is probably a little bit more excited, but shoutouts to Gary. You know, Pokemon is about fun at the end of the day, and especially when you're wearing that Z-Ring bracelet, you gotta go for the dance, especially when it's Eevee calling all of these Pokemon in to help out.
I don't think I'll ever get sick of this animation. Like, it's so pretty. Like, all the Eevees giving Eevee its powers, you know, boosting it up.
I just want to believe in Eevee right now.
I do believe in Eevee. Look at that concentration on Eevee's face, and look, he's been awakened. All that power has been brought about. As we do see the attacks, the stats do rise sharply right there. Wow.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those Pokemon that, again, if you would have told me this a year ago, I would have been like, no way. But here we are, Eevee with all of those boosts on the field, ready to baton pass into what is most likely that Crocodile once again. With Tapu Bulu, I guess maybe trying to set up some support here. Arcanine certainly threatens it, so maybe we'll see another switch into the Clefairy on that part. It's really hard to say. Yeah, it's really interesting right now. All these trainers really or what they need to do is really think about what exactly is going to happen this turn, but Eevee just deciding to attack that Arcanine with a return.
Activating the Citrus Berry right now. Arcanine going to heal back up, can do a lot of damage to the Tapu Bulu, wants to do it before the Psych Up goes off. Arcanine now going for a Will-O-Wisp, going to connect on to the Tapu Bulu, going to try to weaken some damage right there. Eevee does only have one stage of increased attack as Mimikyu now goes for a taunt on the Tapu Bulu. Now it can't psych up.
Yeah, so really great play by Gary, knowing that Tapu Bulu did so much damage in the previous game by both burning it and preventing that psych up from happening unless Giovanni decides to switch around even more. Yeah, that was really good. He really kind of shut down the potential threat of Tapu Bulu, even if he's unable to knock it out.
Yeah, and, that was a good play, but also a better play from Giovanni to bypass, I could get taunted. I'm going to go ahead and just go for the offense. Unfortunately, it does not knock out Arcanine, so Gary's still within range.
Yeah, Gary's within range, but Eevee can still outspeed and knock out that Arcanine here. So I guess we won't see a switch. I was going to say, with how much these trainers have been switching, I wouldn't be surprised, but instead, Eevee using that return to knock Arcanine right out as Mimikyu goes for a curse.
There it is, the curse that we saw do so much work in Game 1, did a little bit of work in Game 2, now making its return back to Game 2 as Woodhammer connects onto the Mimikyu. Is going to be able to pick up the KO right there. Huge damage right there. Does put the curse on Eevee though, so Eevee now with the timer. If a baton passes out, there's going to be a timer as well. Tapu Bulu cannot go for a Psych Up because of the taunt.
Yeah, so Gary is really doing his best here to try and position himself to have the best chance of winning the late game, but Giovanni still has options. I mean, that Woodhammer was still massively powerful, even though that Tapu Bulu was burned.
I mean, Grassy Terrain's so good.
Grassy Terrain is incredible, giving them back that little bit of health, allowing to power up Tapu Bulu's moves that also sort of heal him, like with that Horn Leech. It's down to this Muck and this Porygon. Porygon once again missing out on the special attack boost.
Unfortunate, but Porygon is still a very bulky Pokemon, can still stay out on the field, and it has access to Recover, usually has access to Toxic if you're going that route. Not sure if Gary's is Toxic or not, but we do see Eevee now protect itself. Not going to want to take any damage. Gary reacting to that right there. We'll have to see how this plays out. Tapu Bulu now going for a Woodhammer onto the Porygon 2, doing a good amount of damage as Tapu Bulu again continues to get damaging itself. Oh, Muck uses Minimize.
Oh, that is a very interesting play there. Muck using Minimize and Trick Room from that Porygon 2. Here we thought that Giovanni was sort of playing his win conditions, but Gary saving one last trick for Game 3. That Muck is going to be very hard to hit.
Yeah, and saving the best for last. This is out. Just hope that Muck can stay out on the field as long as it can and continue to spread damage. With the power of Alchemy, that's going to be pretty cool once Porygon 2 gets knocked out.
Yeah, but we'll have to see what stat it gets boosted with because of with that download. If we see another attack boost, then that Muck's going to start dealing a ton of damage.
Boy, tough situation right now for Giovanni. He has to close out well.
He has to close out well, and Gary you look at what happened in the beginning of this game. He saved the Muck and the Porygon in the back, knowing that this was potentially an option he could take advantage of, and just very well played. Definitely managed the field to the best of his ability, and it just goes to show you sometimes having that last trick up your sleeve in Game 3 especially just sort of forces your opponent to think and try and figure things out.
And we do see the Ice Beam connect onto the Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu hangs on with a sliver of health as Muck now goes for a Gunk Shot, connects onto the Tapu Bulu, does a lot of damage right there, picks up the KO for sure. Quadruple super effective. Tapu Bulu finally gets knocked out. I think that's the first time we saw Tapu Bulu get knocked out as Eevee now goes ahead and goes for the baton pass. Going to go ahead and pass these boosts and the curse, unfortunately, to another Pokemon, either the Clefairy and I believe the Crocodile still in the back.
Yeah, so we're most likely going to see that Crocodile take the field right now, so that Intimidate onto the Muck will certainly shut down a little bit of its damage potential, and of course bring Porygon 2 back to neutral attack. But, you know, that Muck is going to be very hard to hit thanks to that Minimize. Really, all Gary has to do right now is just keep dealing consistent damage, and Curse certainly helps with that.
And right now, this Earthquake that Crocodile probably wants to use to try to hit the Muck. Oh, well, the grassy terrain just faded, but if the grassy terrain was there, it would weaken Earthquake, but I take back what I said.
Yeah, I mean, that probably was great timing on Giovanni's part. I doubt he planned for that, but who knows? He certainly made it to Worlds. He certainly knows how to play this game. Keeping that in the back of his head, maybe he was waiting for that grassy terrain to go away to be able to fire off those Earthquakes, but I don't think we're going to see one this turn.
Muck protects. Clefairy goes for the After You right now. Going to go ahead and try to counter Trick Room with After You as Crocodile now goes for a Power Trip connecting onto the Porygon 2. A lot of damage. Picks up the KO.
An amazing play by Giovanni there, using After You and Clefairy to allow his Crocodile to attack first, despite the fact that Trick Room is up, but Muck gets that download, that attack boost to offset the Intimidate from that Crocodile. It looks like Crocodile may only have one turn left with that Curse. It's all going to come down to this last turn. It's incredible how close this game became.
So much damage from that Power Trip. Such a powerful move coming from the Eevee boosted Pokemon. You know, Gary now with the Muck, he has to go dodging moves.
He really has to, so it's all down to that Minimize. Is Muck, you know, quick enough on its feet, if it has feet, to dodge the Earthquake? We're not going to see that at all. Instead, Crocodile switches out, and Eevee instead takes the field.
And we do see Clefairy now protect. Muck is still out on the field. You have to deal with Muck. And Muck goes for the knockoff. Gonna go ahead and target down that Eevee. Gonna go ahead and do a good amount of damage right there. And Eevee now currently in the red. Clefairy full health.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Giovanni was hoping to gain from that switch there. It's possible that he wants to wait until Trick Room is up, maybe, or to get that second Intimidate on Muck if that's the current threat. I mean, it's certainly the only threat on Gary's side of the field, but I'm not sure what Eevee is going to do here. Perhaps an After You return?
Yeah, might as well just get some free damage off of the field, as we do see the After You and the return. Going to do a little bit of chip damage to the Muck. Muck goes for another Minimize, punishing Giovanni for not going the offensive right away. Muck now super evasive. Will it even be able to get touched?
I don't know. I mean, Giovanni already did get lucky once with that return connecting with the Muck. We did just see Trick Room run out. Part of me can't help but wonder if he would have been better off just keeping that Crocodile in, maybe going for an Earthquake and just hoping for the best.
Probably going to try to get that Crocodile in safely. You already mentioned, you know, cycle those Intimidates, which is a very good call. It's tough right now. Giovanni has to figure out a way to hit this Muck. No Body Slam, no Dragon Rush from what I know from Giovanni's team.
Yeah, definitely not. It's all going to come down to luck, unfortunately. Maybe Clefairy has something up its sleeve, but I highly doubt it at this point. At best, it could keep using Follow Me until it gets knocked out to just give Crocodile more opportunities to try and deal that damage to Muck. We do see Eevee switch out.
Yeah, and Crocodile does come in right now, goes for another Intimidate here. Muck now at a neutral attack stat because of the download that it got from the Power of Alchemy, as Clefairy now goes for a Follow Me, just trying to get himself in position, Giovanni in position to be able to pick up his victory. Muck goes for another Minimize. Now is maxed out in evasiveness, and now Giovanni has to hope that he can hit with an Earthquake onto this Muck.
Yeah, I think
or even a Power Trip, even though it's not very effective, but
yeah.
You got to be able to hit something.
You got to be able to hit something. I think if I were Gary, I probably would have been a little bit greedy there and maybe tried to knock out that Clefairy rather than go for the extra Minimize, thinking that, you know, maybe I won't need it, but it is all going to come down to, you know, whether or not this Crocodile can target the Muck. We already saw it fail once. It is going to deal a decent amount of damage to that Clefairy, and Gunk Shot will connect as well.
Okay, alright. Well, you have a couple more chances to be able to hit this Muck. From what I understand, there's about 11 minutes left on the clock in the round timer, so Gary now going to have to try to play it down to the timer. It might come down to time depending on how this Muck does versus his Crocodile.
We'll have to see. Certainly going to be very interesting. I think we were expecting to see the Celesteela, not the Muck Crocodile matchup here.
There was definitely talk about Minimize having an effect on the game, but I never actually thought that somebody would bring Minimize. And, you know, it is an out right now for Gary to try to pick up this victory. Crocodile heavily damaged, Eevee now protecting itself, not wanting to get knocked out just yet.
Giovanni,
as we see it.
you know,
Ooh.
asking for that Earthquake to connect, but we do see Muck protect, so Gary definitely probably playing the timer at this point. Possibly also wanting to stall out the PP of that Earthquake. Whether or not Giovanni used PP ups going into this tournament might actually take an effect here.
And again, it all comes down to whether or not this Earthquake will connect. Right there, Gary probably baited that Protect out of the Muck, and we will have to see exactly what happens here as Eevee goes for another Protect. It fails. Crocodile goes for an Earthquake. Muck dodges it. Eevee gets knocked out, though. So now, can Muck go for another attack on this Crocodile, pick up the KO? It was going to be close.
It's going to be so close that Muck, it's going to try its best with that Gunk Shot to target the Crocodile. Will it deal enough damage for the knockout? Crocodile just barely hanging on, giving Giovanni one last chance to use that Earthquake for the knockout.
Boy.
Wow.
All right. It's not going to go to timer. It's going to end.
It's going to end
in battle.
here. It's going to end right here.
So Crocodile goes for an Earthquake. Muck avoids the attack. Knockoff from Muck connects onto the Crocodile. Is that enough to pick up the KO? It is enough to pick up the KO, and Crocodile gets knocked out, and Gary Chan wins this set. Round 3. He is currently 3-0. Giovanni drops to 2-1, but what a well-played series from both players.